Now, of course, it's me, so we're right back to wafer paper, and this time we're going to talk about some floral embellishments. Floral cakes are always going to be on trend, and sometimes gum paste is a little cumbersome and a little difficult. So using something like wafer paper that is really economical and very, very user-friendly is really a great idea. Try doing that with your gum paste flowers. So we're going to be using some stem wire, but cloth covered stem wire that you get from the floral section of your local craft store, not the tape covered ones. It is important. And we're going to be making our stems to insert into our foam ball first. This is an 18-inch length. We're going to cut this into about 6 different portions at 3 inches each. You don't have to do it super, super small like this. If you want a very stunning tall daisy, you can absolutely make your stems longer. We're going to go in with some floral tape, same floral tape you use for your gum paste. Give it a stretch to activate it, and we're actually going to leave the very top about 1/2 inch free of tape while we're wrapping. We've got 5 of them here. It's a very good amount for support. 3 can be just a little bit too little. Could you do 4? Sure. I won't hold it against you. You're going to bring it all the way down to the end and cover them up. Now we're going to open these a little bit, almost in a pentagon shape. And now we're going to set that aside because we're ready to actually start our daisy. First, we're going to start by creasing our large petals. Now you have this template in your class materials, and you can print this out, cut, and then trace to cut your wafer paper. Or you can insert this template into a cutting software like a silhouette machine like I have. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line it up from the end of this petal to the center between these 2 petals. There's an odd number of petals in here so that you can line these up this way and create your creases. Why not have even petals? Because if you do, then you have to try and line up end to end, and chances are it's going to get a little wonky and you might not get straight little creases. I have this smooth side up because this is the part that I want to show on my final flower. And I'm just using a straight edged metal ruler. It's very thin and it makes a beautiful crisp line. I'm going to do this with all 3 of my large petal sets. Now I've got my other 2 sizes that I've already done. If you noticed, they're in 3 sizes, large to small. Keep them in order. Put my large one down on my foam first. This foam, by the way, came from the kind of upholstery section of the craft store, right where you would get your bumpy foam for sugar flowers. And I'm going to line these up offset with my smaller one on top of my larger. Little bit of water like we did before and give it a press. Gives it a little bit of life. Do the same thing with my smallest set. Give it a pinch and set it aside. We're going to use our travel steamer to create our little wafer poof inside of our daisy. We're going to be working with this texture side up, and that's where we're going to be applying the moisture because we want it to curl inwards to that side. So carefully take your fingers and run this right through the stream of steam. This is going to be your centermost. I'm starting with my smallest. And now as that dries, they're going to curl upwards. So while they're drying, we're going to go into our second one. Now sometimes these get wet enough that they become sticky, and you don't need to use additional water to layer them. Let's see how this one is. Again, like you did with the big ones, offset them. Give them a little bit of a push so they start to curl in, and they'll continue curling as they dry. They're nowhere near dry yet. And we're going to keep going through all of our sizes, working from our 6 smallest to 3 medium to 2 largest, layering them. So that is our basic daisy form. We have a few more details to do, including our stem and calyx. Again, your calyx is part of your template in your class materials. And we're going to start with it texture side up, a little bit of water on your paintbrush, and just down one side of that opening. Then just like we did with the poppies, push it over to cup it. Now we're going to take our pre-made stem and we are going to thread it through this hole. Yes, it's going to tear it a little, no big deal. And you're going to want to line up as much as you can your wires to your points. You want to hide them as much as possible. It's just a good practice to be in, even though these really aren't going to be visible. Again, a light amount of water, and you're going to get this calyx all kinds of wet, including underneath where those wires are sitting. Okay, I shouldn't say all kinds of wet. I already warned you about that. But you are going to dampen it. Take your daisy, turn it upside down. Take your calyx, turn it upside down, and line them up so that it's in the center of your daisy. Now we're going to press down just mildly with our fingers here and press up with our finger underneath. Then turn it over and push around each one of those little wires. It's easier to do it in this direction so you know you're not crushing your flower. And there we go. Now it's assembled and it's ready for its final little details. We're going to put it in our foam. We have to make a center on it, and we're going to use some Black Model Magic. This is actually a non-toxic clay foam for kids that you find in the kids aisle at the craft store. This is fabulous for just about any kind of flower center, and I use it a lot. Just make sure when you're not using it, you have it secured in a nice airtight bag. It will dry out. So now I'm taking about a pea-size amount of Model Magic, maybe a little bit bigger than a pea. I'm just going to roll it into a circle. Grab a little bit of my sugar glue. Put it in the center of my daisy. Not a ton, you don't want to melt it. Put my Model Magic in, and I'm going to press down gently. I don't want to distort that circular shape. And I'm going to want to turn this to use my finger to press outwards to fill that inner poof. Each one of your flowers is going to be a different size in there. So you need to work it. Now we are going to add our poppy seeds. So again, we're going to use just a little bit of our sugar glue. You can use corn syrup if you want, or piping gel, whatever you have on hand. My glue's out, so I'm going to use it. And I like having one of these little flexible tiny containers with my poppy seeds in it so that I can pinch and pour. Give it a little shake, a little pat, secure those down on there, and then just flip it over, tap it just a little bit to get all the extras out. And now you have some beautiful texture in the center there. These you can just easily flick out. Now the last little thing we have to do to finish off this daisy is add just a little bit of color to this inner poof. So we're just going to use a little bit of orange and a little bit of yellow petal dust. I don't want it to be too orange, which is why I'm cutting it with the yellow. And now as you're tapping this into your petals, you do have to do it kind of upside down so that your petal dust doesn't spray all over the rest of your flower. So we're going to load this brush up real well. So now, just like we did with the luster cake, you're going to pounce with your brush. We're going to get in between those petals, pounce inwards. Do you have to add this? No. But it's one of those extra little details that takes almost no time, truly, that differentiates your flowers, takes them up a notch, and really, really makes them look a little bit more realistic. Gives them character. Again, just like we did with the poppies, give it a little tap, get all that extra dust out of there. And there we go. Now, if you want to get really fancy schmancy, there are a couple very, very subtle things you can do to differentiate these. You can take a mixture of cornmeal and yellow petal dust and create pollen inside of them just by adding a little piping gel or corn syrup to grab it. Or you can add a little bit of black petal dust to give it a little bit more depth and darkness and drama. But these are really wonderfully customizable.